Welcome back to another division breakdown here at All Things Football. Today we are breaking down the NFC North. A lot of changes going on there up north that we'll go ahead and get into. So if you're new here, what we're doing here is releasing our division breakdown series. We will go through each division, break down each teams individually, give an in-depth analysis of each, and then give our final record standings of what the division standings will be at the end of the year. So we're not doing wins or losses. We're just projecting standings. So 1 through number 4. So let's go ahead and dive right in here with the division breakdown of the NFC North. This is All Things Football.
Holmes gets a block from Richardson in the backfield. 15, 10, 5, juking right, touchdown.
All righty, Chase. So this is your division, right? So how are you feeling here as we tackle here the NFC North, the overall outlook, if you will, before we dive in?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I think this is a perfect transition period for the Packers. I'll kind of get into that. None of these teams are, one of the best in the league, right? We had kind of that flash in the pan with the Vikings last year, but I think we'll talk about it later with the Vikings, but I think all of them are kind of almost at the same level. So I think this is a perfect transition from a Hall of Famer to our new guy, hopefully maybe a Hall of Famer, who knows? But I think this is the perfect time to end an era and start a new one.
There you go. I mean, no time like the present. Not every day does one of the greats leave your division and open it up for you. So definitely be scrambling around for division supremacy here for the future. So we'll see if the Vikings are able to keep it up or if somebody else will come in and take their place. But if you haven't watched any of our other division breakdowns, each one of us has 2 teams in the division that we give our breakdown for. So Chase, we'll go ahead and start with you with one of your teams.
All right. And we got to start with them. We're starting with the Green Bay Packers, right? So, of course, this is the wildest thing that happened this offseason. 18-year vet, Hall of Fame, probably, top 5 all-time quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, decides his time in Green Bay is done, requests the trade, gets moved to the New York, going to have a great season over there. And what does that mean for Green Bay? That means that their shining star in the making, former first-round pick Jordan Love, is stepping up to the plate. And no better time for him to step up to the plate because they have all new weapons and a young team around him. So we'll talk about Jordan Love a little bit later. Let's get into our team first. We got Christian Watson. As you see, I'm repping the jersey for Christian Watson. He is a star in the making, right? He kind of bloomed late mid-season, last year, exploded onto the field with 3 touchdowns against the Cowboys, continued that production to finish with 8 touchdowns. This guy is dangerously fast and big for a wide receiver, right? Let's hopefully his production and talent level keeps increasing each year. And then we've got a newcomer in Jaden Reed, I believe, either Jaden or Jordan Reed. I think it's Jaden Reed from Michigan State coming in, kind of the same build, a little less fast, but he can still fly around the field. He was more of a possession catch guy, maybe a safety blanket for our young quarterback. Then going into the backfield, we have Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, one of the best 1-2 punches in football. I believe Aaron Jones is criminally underrated for what he does, and A.J. Dillon is just a bowling ball of a man, right? He nicknamed him Quadzilla, or the Quad Father. That guy is huge and moves people. Then we have another question mark here at our tight end spot. We just drafted 2 rookies as Robert Tonyan has made the move to rival Chicago Bears. We drafted Luke, I should have wrote his name down. Musgrove. Thank you. Luke Musgrove. And he is going to come in, and he's been great, surprising Matt LaFleur at training camp. That's all the rave with him. He's a huge man with giant hands that's just snatches thing. They believe that he could come in and be the starting tight end and just run away with the job. Our offensive line, as beat up as it was last year, it's kind of back to being healthy. We have Elton Jenkins returning at guard, where he kind of played a couple different roles last year on the offensive line. He's coming back, one of the best left guards in the game. We have David Bakhtiari finally fully healthy. We've seen what he's done in the past, been one of the left tackles in the league. And then we have our center coming in his second year, just getting more comfortable with LaFleur's offense and his duties. I think our offensive line, if not is behind our backfield and Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, is our second best thing on offense. Before we get to the defensive side of the ball, we'll just wrap up Jordan Love. He's started one game, played in I think 8 games he's played in. A lot of that is just QB kneels. Started against the Chiefs, looked decent, not great. Was also the most blitz quarterback of any one game of all time. Spags knew he had an unexperienced quarterback at that game, and he just sent the house to him, which is smart defensive. That's what you get from the reigning champions at that point in time when they played. So, he'll look a little different than that. He came into the Philly game and Rodgers broke his ribs at that game Sunday night. Kind of impressed America, right? Went for a touchdown to Christian Watson. Just looked in complete control. So I have Jordan Love. One of the things that I look for in quarterbacks is the ability to evade pressure in the pocket and have control in the pocket. That Chiefs game, dude had no idea. He was getting the ball out of his hands fast, trying to just one-on-one with Devontae Adams, and he was freaking out because the pocket was caving in. And then came in on that Philly game with that Philly defensive line that was projected to be so great and looked in complete control, had great pocket awareness, knew where to step up, knew when to bail. So that's one thing that's got me hoping for Jordan Love next year. Then on that defensive side, I believe this defense is one of the best in the league. Jair Alexander, one of the best cornerbacks, I'm going to say the best cornerback in the NFC at least, is leading this defense with, he calls it the strap zone, meaning that the wide receivers are going to get strapped with Rasul Douglas and Eric Stokes, another former first rounder, all healthy again. Our linebacker core of Devondre Campbell, who really came on 2 years ago and then had just a decent year last year. And then Quay Walker is kind of a household name, became the first player since 1987 to be ejected twice in a season. But he has said that that's behind him. Hopefully he can get that straightened out. If you just look at his on-the-field play outside of those dumb interactions that he had with the training staff, he looks pretty good, right? He looked just like you would expect from a first-round rookie. We have Kenny Clark in the middle of our field, one of the best D tackles in the game, and then Rashawn Gary coming back from his ACL healthy. We've struggled to get pressure when Rashawn Gary tore his ACL, so what do? We drafted an Iowa Hawkeye, right? An Iowa Hawkeye first round, and Lucas Van Ness, a guy who didn't really start for Iowa but led the team in sacks. And that Iowa defense, say what you want about that offense, but that Iowa defense knows what they're doing. So I'm looking forward to see him play. And I just think that defense, but outside of the safeties, right? We let Adrian Amos walk. We have Darnell Savage, a former first-round athlete, right? This guy is crazy athletic, kind of gets lost sometimes. So hopefully he can calm down. And then Rudy Ford, who stepped up last season when I think Savage got hurt, he came in and played. He's going to take over that other spot. Also, another guy we got in the 7th, Anthony Johnson Jr. from Iowa State. I believe that guy could come and play actual minutes for the Packers in the 7th round. Look out for his name because I think he's a stud in the making.
There you have it, folks. That's the best breakdown of the Packers that you are going to get right here from Chase here on All Things Football. So, touch on that real quick. Here are my concerns. Let me start with what I'm not concerned about. I'm not concerned about the defensive side of the ball.
Yes.
I pretty much agree with everything that you said on the defensive side of the ball. I think they're great. I think they're built for success there on the defense. The defense has put them in multiple positions to win games recently where the offense hasn't been able to capitalize on it. And so I don't really have too many questions about the defense. So obviously my questions are the offense. One,
absolutely,
I agree 100% when you talk about Aaron Jones being completely underrated. 100% is. And especially whenever he plays against the Bears. Like people always talk about the Eagles running back Bart Scott as being the giant slayer, but Aaron Jones is the bear slayer. Like I kid you not, every time they play on that Sunday night, I almost always have Jones on my fantasy team pretty much for that game. Like he's going to go for at least 3 touchdowns, and one of them is always receiving. Like he is a bear slayer. He just plays the best football ever against that team. So I'm with you there on Aaron Jones. My biggest concern for the Packers on offense, honestly, it's not even the quarterback. Honestly, it's going to be the wide receiver group. I think, Christian Watson came on super strong at the end of last season. Honestly think if Aaron Rodgers was doing what he's doing with the Jets now with Christian Watson, and that Christian Watson, I think would be, and loads better, and he would have came on a lot sooner, and the Packers maybe are in a different place. But because that took too long to come to fruition. I think it negatively affected Christian Watson's, where he wasn't able to tap it in and kind of get going until later in the season. But he finished the season strong. He was multiple touchdown games. Like, dude came on fire. So that's going to be your wide receiver one now. The second year, a second year player. You have Romeo Dubes out there who,
Preseason stud.
Exactly, preseason stud, but doesn't live to the hype, and obviously another rookie in Jaden Reed. So just so many question marks there as far as receivers goes. And I don't have enough confidence in Jordan Love to know that he's going to be able to elevate that receiving group. And so that's where that's my reservations for the Packers is going to be that wide receiver group. They're going to get the defense is going to keep them competitive in games, but there's going to be a point where Jordan Love is going to have to obviously throw the ball, go down the field on drives, and he's dealing with ton of inexperienced players. When him, even though being in the league, is still inexperienced due to sitting behind Aaron Rodgers, and so how is that going to come to fruition? I think we'll see a lot of how good of a coach Matt LaFleur really is. So excited to see that be fully tested, right? He came in with the benefit of having Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback to rely on. So we'll see kind of how good of a coach he's going to be as to draw up schemes to get these players open, to get Jordan Love in a groove early in the game so that they can score just enough where the defense can hold. So those are my kind of reservations with the Packers there. And so excited to see kind of how all of that unfolds this season.
Yes. Yeah. No, I absolutely understand that. Right. I think the only thing that gives me a little bit of reassurance is when you look out the league the past couple of years, these rookies that we're seeing, I don't think we've ever seen these rookies catch on and be so electric so early. Now, I'm not comparing, Christian Watson to a Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson, but even like George Pickens, even the Dante Johnson caught on really early. We just talked about the Steelers, but I think it's getting easier to transition from NFL to college and vice versa, or I guess only vice versa, college to NFL, right? So I think that kind of gives me
NFL players are going to college. You get relegated like in soccer. You have to go back to college to play.
That'd be crazy. The Browns would be down there in like D3. But no. But I think that's kind of a little bit reassurance. These aren't typical rookies, right? We've seen the rookies are now coming on and getting it faster and getting better faster. Even just the average guys, not just the Micah Parsons, but also the Alex Highsmiths and all of the other guys that we've seen take that step way earlier than normal. So I think that kind of gives me a little reassurance. And I think, I think you're right with the whole Aaron Rodgers kind of stunted some of those growth. And I don't even know if it was him, not participating with them early because Christian Watson, we drafted him. He was hurt. Then he got hurt. He was hurt coming into week 1, got re-injured at week 2. So he was out to like week 5, but also playing his buddies, Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb, they got a ton of touches and a ton of playing time over these rookies. When they, Randall Cobb is not the same receiver he was 4 or 5 years ago, right? There's no reason he should have been playing instead of Watson. So there's that stunting that happened. But also one of the other things that Aaron Rodgers helped is it gave us that third seed schedule, right? We finished 3rd last year, missed the playoffs by that one game Sunday Night Football. Painful to watch, but it helps us now, right? We don't have to play the juggernauts of these teams. We're playing the third, the best teams, right? I think we play like the Cardinals and the Rams. Got some easy teams on our scheduling.
Yeah, shaping up for a good turnaround season there for the Packers to kind of get their feet wet and see kind of what they're made of. So I agree with that. Moving on here, let's go ahead and up to their neighbor here. The Detroit Lions, who ended the Packers season last year in Lambeau in a primetime game. I know the wound's still fresh, but training camp has started. We're officially on to the next season, Chase, so get over it.
Okay.
And so the Lions, listen. So the Lions started off struggling. They were like 1-6, and they turned it on and ended up finishing 9-8. They went on a great win streak, and even some of those games that they lost, they were competitive, right? They took Bills down to the wire. There were a lot of games in there that they were competitive against good teams. So all of it was there. They were just missing key pieces, and largely it was on largely was on the defense. Their defense was horrible last year. They couldn't stop anything. People could go all over them. So the question is did they do enough this year between the draft and free agency to bolster up that defense to have it not be their Achilles heel, right? Maybe it's not going to be perfect and not be one of the best defenses, but is it going to be enough to where they're going to be able to rely on their defense to help them close out games and win some games? So let's take a look at some free agent signings that they had. They got Cam Sutton from the Steelers, a great pickup. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson from the Eagles. They got Emmanuel Mosley. They got Alex Anzalone. So they got some players, some stud players there on defense. They mostly went after defense, though, in the draft. And so we kind of talked about their draft as one of the weirdest drafts because I love the players they got. I just didn't necessarily like that the order they got them in. However, I'm kind of over that because they got the players that they wanted. It doesn't really matter the order looking back on it. But we're looking here specifically for defense first. Jack Campbell out of Iowa, Brian Branch out of Alabama. They stole Brian Branch in round 2 at pick number 45. We had him mocked, every single mock in the first round for sure. And he falls in there to kind of the early middle of round 2 at pick number 45. So, I mean, they got him there. And so did they do enough on defense? I don't know yet. This is going to be the one of the things where I'm just going to have to wait. I'm going to have to wait and see how that defense looked. But Aiden Hutchinson coming off a great year. I think he should have won Defensive Rookie of the Year. And so building off of that, adding these studs like Campbell and Brian Branch there on defense, as well as the free agent signings that they brought in there to kind of plug in those places. I do like what they did on defense. So is it going to be good enough? We'll have to wait and see. But I like what they did on defense. That was their Achilles heel. They had to get better on defense. And then look at the offense, right? So offense, they had a very underrated offense last year. Jared Goff was a very underrated quarterback. If you go back and look at numbers, Jared Goff statistically had better seasons than some of the higher quarterbacks that we usually think of, right? He just plays just because he's not flashy. They don't put up a lot of points, but they played well. I mean, they put up 38 points or 35 points against the Eagles, right? I mean, they were in games competitively and they were making plays and scoring points. And so obviously that falls on the quarterback with Jared Goff. He was comfortable in the system. The Jameson Williams thing is tough because he was injured. He came in, had like that one catch for a touchdown, which was incredible, and then just really couldn't get back on the field. Now he's suspended like the first 6 games because of the whole gambling thing. So that's going to be a struggle as well. So that's going to hinder them. But you got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is a stud, who's finally getting the recognition that he deserves. He's been under the radar so far his whole career. And now finally last year, he kind of got put in the spotlight and is not getting the recognition he deserves, which is terrible for my fantasy team because he's always been my low-key sleeper pick that I would always grab in like the 7th round, and he'd always help me win. So now he's going in like the first 2 rounds. I'm like, dang it. But got there. Obviously you bring in wide receiver Marvin Jones Jr. as well. You bring in David Montgomery from your division rivals. Not the best, but he's suitable there, right? Because you lose Jamal Williams, but Jamal Williams was just as a goal rusher anyway, so not really losing much there. But then the big one, the biggest one at all, and it's crazy because it's a running back, right? We know kind of what the running back market is, but Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama. They got him at pick number 12 there in round 1. Which was a shocking pick, but that was their guy. They love him. They're using him more as a pass catcher than as a running back. I've seen in camp where even when David Montgomery's in at running back, Gibbs is out on the field as a wide receiver. He's getting like all the reps, for first team and all the reps, and so Gibbs is going to be out there like every single play in one way or the other. If it's a running back or if it's a wide receiver, maybe they even line him up as a tight end. I don't know at this point, but they're going to use him to his full potential. So great for fantasy managers, I think, with Gibbs. We'll see how his body's going to be able to handle that workload. Hopefully that he'll be able to handle it well, but I'm really excited to watch him play. So it's all going to be on, I think it's all going to hinge on if that defense got better. If the defense is going to be in there, I'm really excited about the offense. I think the offense is going to be just fine. I love the new players they added on defense. I love the new players they added as well. I just have to be convinced, right? I need you to show me that you're able to get out there and win games. I'm hopeful that you will be able to, because it would be super exciting for the Lions just to come out of nowhere. They've just been at the bottom of the league my entire life. I've lived on this earth for 27 years, and they've been garbage for all 27 of them. It's just a fact. I would love nothing more than to sit down on Thanksgiving and watch a Lions game where they actually win.
Yeah.
I've never done that in my entire life, and to me that would make. I'm not even a Lions fan, but to me that would make Thanksgiving. What would make Thanksgiving awesome is if the Lions win and the Cowboys lost. So that's what I'm hoping for this season. So the Lions, they've made the moves. Sam Laporta, I forgot to mention.
Oh,
Love
yeah.
Sam Laporta out
Stud.
of I love Sam
You.
Laporta out of Iowa. So he's going to be able to get in there and get in work there, replace T.J. Hawkinson. They went from one Iowa Hawkeye to another Iowa Hawkeye, so they know where to go for tight
Tight
ends
ends. Yes,
out
sir.
of tight end use. So I really love what they did. Right, I didn't like it at first, and like I said, it was just kind of because how it all unfolded. But now looking back on it, they got the good players. Screw value. They got the players that they wanted, and at this point, that's what you need. You need the players that you want to be in your building, in your team, in your system, because those are going to be the ones that are going to help you win. And so that's kind of the outlook here of the Detroit Lions. But I'm trending higher and higher on the Lions. I really like what they've done. Just show me, Detroit. Show me that you have it.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. I think the best thing the Lions did this offseason is being able to retain and keep Ben Johnson, their offensive coordinator. That dude is destined for a head coaching job. I think he's one of the better offensive coordinators. I don't know how he stuck around, because I'm not that high on Dan Campbell. I think he is great for the media, but I think all of the secrets are in those two coordinators that they have down there. And I think as long as Ben Johnson's around, Dan Campbell will have a job. I think he just kind of is a little bit too wild. It reminds me of Pat McAfee, where he doesn't really know what he's talking, but the media loves him, right? So I think that's kind of Dan Campbell. But Ben Johnson, as long as he's there, I don't care who's their head coach, because he's calling the plays and he's a miracle worker. And also the other thing with the Lions is Kirby Joseph, amazing. Kind of a stud guy they got last year, a safety. He picked off Aaron Rodgers 3 times between 2 games. He just a stud safety. The GM down there in Detroit, I forget his name, but as I ran into Ian Rappaport when we were down at the draft, he mentioned that GM was with the Rams when they drafted Gurley, and they view Jamar Gibbs as the next Gurley, right? They see the same skill set. And if you're confused at how good Gurley is, I believe he still has the most touchdowns of any player that's not a quarterback. So if that's their person, right, Jamar Gibbs turns into the next Gurley, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, Ben Johnson, I mean, he's so good. He's thrown passes to Penei Sewell for first downs to ice the game. So, I mean, a stud OC with some cojones on him. So,
yes.
Great player. So,
yes.
Yeah, great player. So excited here for Detroit. So, who else did you got here, Chase, on our division breakdown?
I've got the Chicago Bears. The Bears. All right, now let me tell you, when I did this breakdown, I did take the Packer cap off, right? And let me just flyer, I'm not one of those Packer fans that hate the Bears, right? I have a rival. We haven't talked about them. That's the team I hate. Chicago, nothing but love, right? You guys haven't been very good, so there's no reason to hate you. But is that changing this year? I don't think so. Let me run through this roster real fast. They did do a lot, right? They're retooling. I think they're still retooling, but I believe in Justin Fields. I don't know how during the pre-draft process he was talked down to, like, what is he? We drafted as fourth quarterback, maybe 5th. I don't remember where Mac Jones and him fell. 1 or 2 picks outside of each other, but they drafted him at 11. They traded up and got their guy. He exploded on the field with his feet. I believe he's in college. He was more using his arm to get those explosive plays. So I believe he can put it together. They did the big trade that everyone was talking about for the number 1 overall pick, getting DJ Moore, and still the 9th overall pick. They used that 9th overall pick to draft Darnell Wright to kind of solid up that offensive line. I don't think it's done. I think next year they'll go all for it again. I think this year the offensive line, you're still going to see Justin Fields kind of running for his life as Darnell Wright and believe it's Telvin Jenkins from Oklahoma State. I think it's his 2nd year there, and he kind of played decent. He's going to have to take another step up if he doesn't want to get replaced next year. but I believe that's kind of they're going to be their offense. They signed Cole Kmet, made him a top 10 paid tight end. I believe Cole Kmet is a decent to good tight end. I don't think he's a Travis Kelce, but he's a very, very suitable tight end for Justin Fields' safety blanket. They did lose some of their backfield, right? They lost David Montgomery. They brought in some veteran. I didn't even pay attention because their real running back is Roschon Johnson. I talked about him in our breakdown of the draft. Go listen to that if you want my in-depth analysis. But I believe this guy would have been a stud and a household name if he wasn't running behind Bijan Robinson. So I'm all in on Roschon Johnson. Mark that for fantasy, right? You want Roschon on your team. Khalil Herbert, that's who their other guy is. Khalil Herbert, there's nothing special, nothing bad about him. He's going to be a solid guy, but Roschon's going to get the workload there. Then flipping over to the defensive side, that was where they were kind of giving up things, right? They traded Mack before the season, Khalil Mack. They traded Robert Quinn during the season. They were just dumping everyone. Akeem Hicks is out. They brought in a couple guys to shore up that team. Brought in Trayman Edmonds and TJ Edwards. So they have those middle linebacker duo after they traded Roquan Smith, right? They have Jalen Johnson, the cornerback from Utah. They drafted a Tyreek Stevenson, a very, very fast, athletic defensive back from Miami. They drafted a defensive tackle from, I believe, Georgia. I don't remember quite where he's drafted from. They brought him in from the SEC, at least, maybe Ole Miss. They brought him in to kind of eat those runs, right? To be just a run stopper. They still have Eddie Jackson, who was an all-pro his rookie year in 2019. So hopefully he can get back to that. I think this team is trending up, but I don't know if it's trended there yet.
Yeah, I'm with you. They seem to be kind of the media's offseason love child, where like all of a sudden the Bears are going to be, vying for a playoff spot, winning the division, like they're up there. I'm just like I'm pumping the brakes pretty hard here on the Bears. I
Yes.
think it's way too soon to put those expectations on there. Justin Fields has already put it on himself, saying he's the fifth best quarterback, in the league. That he's going to be the first Bears quarterback to throw over 4,000, like all this different stuff, and so. A lot of stuff is going out there, a lot of, talking up and some things on there that I'm just pumping the brakes pretty hard there on the Bears. And so it's definitely hard for me to get behind them at this stage of where they're at. Wrapping up here with the NFC North is going to be the defending champs, the Minnesota Vikings. In case you missed that weird noise, that was Chase cheering for his favorite team in the NFC North.
Yeah. Not doing that. The Vikings.
The Vikings, who are the defending champs. So it's going to be, are they going to be able to rise to the occasion to defend their division title, go on for year 2, and make another push for the playoffs? I hope we had a chance at redemption. So the last time we saw the Minnesota Vikings, they were losing a home playoff game to none other than the New York Football Giants. And so very, very disappointing showing to where, it was a very fun season. Obviously, winning the division is huge, right? Nothing to scoff at for sure. Winning the division, kind of being one of those teams that no one was really like sure on because you won, only like 11 games with by one score. So it wasn't like you were blowing anybody out. You were playing close to the vest pretty much every single game, which is it's hard to win those games. So kudos to them for winning it. But then no one was shocked when it got to the playoffs and they lost. Even to the Giants, no one was shocked there to see it. So it's just a tough way to end the season whenever you do have that success of winning the division, and then just to lose that home playoff game. I forgot to mention this whenever we were on doing our review of quarterback. I just want to mention it here. So Kirk Cousins ends that play by throwing to TJ Hawkinson well short of the sticks.
Yes.
And his analysis of that, or his explanation was, he saw Justin Jefferson. I keep calling him JJ because he calls him JJ in that series like all the time. So he saw Jefferson, it was double covered. He said, I just thought that it was irresponsible to throw to him on the game on the line like that. And I thought, okay, you know what, that makes sense or whatever. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, one, that's stupid because one, you give your best player a chance to make a play, and two, previously in the season, it was 4th and 18 against the Bills, do or die, like make it or go home, like, and you threw it up to Justin Jefferson, who was in quadruple coverage, and he made the catch, and it helped you win the game. So to me, that analysis, looking back on it, like, it's really ticked me off. I was like, bro, like that's just so stupid. Like you give your best player a chance to make the play. Plus, you've already done that once in the season, so it's not like you haven't done it before. So anyway, I had to throw that caveat in there. So,
No.
um, but kind of like a breakdown what they've done, right? Looking at kind of what they lost, they really didn't lose that much. I mean, if we're being honest, they did lose tight end Irv Smith Jr. They lost cornerback Patrick Peterson. I think those would probably be the two biggest losses. But they bring in edge Marcus Davenport. They bring in cornerback Byron Murphy Jr. from the Cardinals. I was really high on him coming out of the draft. Didn't really live up to expectations, my height, but then he went to the Cardinals, so I'm kind of holding reservation on that. Maybe I don't know, holding my judgment. Maybe it was actually the Cardinals and not him. They obviously re-signed Garrett Bradbury. The curious move though of the offseason was going to be letting go of Dalvin Cook. That was something that was very strange. Obviously a dynamic running back definitely helps them win games. He did get hurt very often though. So maybe that was kind of what their thing was, is we're paying this guy way too much money just to get hurt. So trying to move off of him. Alexander Madison was always a viable replacement. Like, he was able to do well, but he's still nowhere near the caliber running back of Dalvin Cook. So I'm confused what they're doing at the running back position, because I don't think I'm very confused by that. So we'll see how kind of that shakes out. But I think the biggest addition that's going to help was going to be getting Jordan Addison there to pair up with Justin Jefferson. Right, you move off of the aging Adam Thielen, get in a younger Jordan Addison who potentially could be way better than Adam Thielen ever was. And I was a big fan of Thielen. I really like Thielen. I thought he was someone who was kind of underrated. But they bring in Jordan Addison, I think could be a stud. So you'd have Addison, and you have Justin Jefferson, obviously going at it. You obviously throw Hawkinson in the mix, right? You got a pretty good stack of trio there for Kirk Cousins to work with. But the biggest problem was not really the offense. The biggest problem was obviously the defense, right? Defense was the same thing with the Lions, where the defense was their Achilles heel. So first thing to do is bring in Brian Flores, right, to be their defensive coordinator. We saw what Brian Flores was able to do in Miami. Fantastic defensive coordinator, fantastic defensive mind. So I do like that addition. It's just going to be if they're going to be able to build off of what they had last year with Brian Flores there on defense. And I'm at the point where I don't know. I don't think really that they got any better on defense at all. They drafted Mekhi Blackman out of USC at cornerback to kind of maybe replace Patrick Peterson. But they didn't really draft, anybody else that makes me like, oh wow, that defense could be scary next year. So Brian Flores, I think, is going to have a lot on his hands to get that defense to where it needs to be, because they just were just very trash last season. I don't think they focused enough on getting that defense better. I think they mainly focused on getting the offense better, which, it is an offensive league, and so that's great. But I think at their most points, they're able to win those 3-score games. So the year before they lost the 1-score games. Then the year after they won their 1-score games. So what's going to happen this year? They're going to be able to repeat what they did last year. That's tough to do. Playing in those close games is just tough to do. And the offensive line as well. I didn't really realize it, but after watching quarterback, Kirk Cousins died every single day on that field. Like, the dude was just getting whacked. Like, did they do anything to shore up the offensive line? And the answer is no, they did not.
No.
They did not fix that at all. Like, literally at all. They did not touch the offensive line except re-sign the center. That's it. And so it's just tough for me to sit back and say, okay, they're going to be able to repeat what they did last year. Whenever they did not help the offensive line, they're not helping Kirk Cousins at all in that aspect, right? They gave him another weapon, which is great, but they didn't get better on defense, and they didn't get better on the offensive line, which are the two places that they needed to get better at. And so definitely have concerns with the Vikings moving forward.
Yes. Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think this is one of the very few teams that I can honestly, truly say got worse this offseason. They let Cook go. They shipped out Zadarius Smith. They lost Eric Kendricks, a longtime Viking and one of a heck of a corner coverage middle linebacker. He's now in LA. And Harrison Smith is running on fumes. Very, very talented safety that it's ending the end of their season. They didn't really bring in anything to help him. Patrick Peterson left. They brought in a slot cornerback. They brought in Byron Murphy's a slot zone coverage cornerback. Then they hired a guy who runs 90% man in Brian Flores. They hired a guy that likes to blitz their cornerbacks and leave their safeties and linebackers in coverage. Didn't draft anyone for his needs to be able to do that. I think the Vikings are they're stuck with a situation where they have a quarterback that is just good enough to win games, and now they have to try to surround him with the greatest talent of all times to get him to win playoff games, and that's hurting their defense.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be it's going to be interesting, and all not to imagine, right? Since they won the division, they're playing a first place schedule, so they definitely have a lot harder schedule this year than they did last year. So it'll be very tough for them to try to repeat there as division title. But that's our individual analysis there for each teams for the Lions, Vikings, Packers, and Bears. So let's go ahead and bring on our predictions for the division standings. So Chase, at the end of the 2023 NFL season, the division standings of the NFC North will be what?
I'm going to start at 4. At 4, I've got the Bears, right? Pump the brakes. The worst thing that's happening is the media is overhyping him. This is still retooling. Ryan Poles, I think he's doing great. I think they have a future now, but it's not right now, right? They're playing for the future. Bears at 4. At 3, I've got the Vikings, right? Getting worse in the defense. It wasn't great. The one-score games, you can't count on winning 11 one-score games and a 35-point comeback to get you in the playoffs this year. It just doesn't happen. This is the NFL. At 2, I've got the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love needs a season before he takes over for Aaron Rodgers reigning this division. That leaves the Detroit Lions winning this division for the first time and maybe ever. Who knows?
You know what, Chase? I've got the exact same thing. I think the only thing that could flip there that I'd feel comfortable with would be having the Vikings at number 2 and the Packers at number 3, just because I do like the Vikings offense more than I like the Packers offense. But I'm taking to the account, like we've said clearly before, is the team that they're playing. First place versus third place.
Yes.
And so I'm confident enough in the Packers that I think they'll be able to play better against the third place division than I am saying that the Vikings will be able to play against their first place division. And so that's why I got to go with the Lions, Packers, Vikings, and Bears as well. Same thing as you said with the Bears. Still rebuilding that. Definitely pump the brakes hardcore on that. I got the emergency brake on, like not going at all on the Bears. I'm not buying into the hype, not at all. Lions. Honestly, the top 3, so Lions, Vikings, or Packers, honestly, they could mess around. Either one of them could win this division. Like, I wouldn't be entirely shocked if that happened. But I think I got to go with the Lions just because where they finished last season is everybody else finished down. They're the only ones that finished up. So I'm banking on them to ride that momentum there in a division that's wide open more than it's been in 30 years.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. No, I agree. That's why I put them there. I think they are the best team suited to win now, right? I don't think they continue to win. Obviously as a Packer fan, I think Packers are trending back upwards, but this is, we've mentioned it, this is a rebuilding kind of retooling year. The Packers did it smart where they're rebuilding one side as the other side's already built. So I have the Packers at 2, but I do think the Lions just have everything clicking right now to win our division.
There you have it, folks. That is the division breakdown for the NFC North. So make sure you let us know in the comments your thoughts on our take on our analysis of each team, maybe things that we missed, maybe things that you like, and obviously let us know in those comments there your division standings. Are we doing the Vikings dirty? Should they be repeat as division champs? Are we doing the Bears dirty? Are you buying into that Bears hype? Are they going to finish as number 1? Let us know here in the comments. Obviously, like, subscribe so you get all of our videos from our other division breakdowns as well as our other product clips in our full shows. Catch us anywhere that you get your podcast. We're on Apple. We are on Spotify, here on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and leave a rating. So got a lot more division breakdowns to get to you guys. This is All Things Football.